The rain drummed against my Mustang's hood like impatient fingers, each drop catching the neon glow from Murphy's bar across the street. I should have been inside, nursing a beer and pretending my marriage wasn't circling the drain. Instead, I was out here at midnight, wrench in hand, trying to fix what couldn't be fixed, much like everything else in my life. That's when I heard her laugh. Not just any laugh. The kind of laugh Erica used to give me 15 years ago when I still believed I was worth something. Now she was giving it to someone else, her voice drifting through our kitchen window like a knife between my ribs. You know, you're the only man who ever made me really feel alive. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. I froze, my knuckles white around the wrench. 22 years of marriage, and apparently I'd been burdened the entire time. Well, that's news to the guy who paid for her breast implants, I thought, wiping rain from my eyes. I crept closer to the window, my work boots squelching in the mud. Through the gap in the curtains, I could see her pacing the kitchen, phone pressed to her ear like a lifeline. Her blonde hair caught the overhead light, and for a moment she looked like the woman I'd married. Then she spoke again. "Gary's outside playing mechanic. Poor bastard thinks fixing that piece of junk will somehow fix us." Another laugh, sharp as broken glass. I told him he should try my sister if he's so desperate. At least Faye might appreciate his limited talents. Not the first time she'd thrown her family at me like scraps to a dog, but this felt different, meaner, more final. I backed away from the window, my heart hammering against my ribs. The Mustang sat there in the rain, hood up like a patient on an operating table. Suddenly I didn't give a damn about the carburetor. Inside, I stripped off my soaked clothes and climbed into bed, careful not to wake her when she finally came upstairs. But sleep was a joke. I lay there staring at the ceiling, listening to her breathe, wondering how long she'd been planning my funeral. The next morning hit like a hangover I didn't earn. Erica was already up, power-dressed in her real estate armor, sharp blazer, killer heels, enough makeup to hide the fact that she was 40 and running on fumes. She barely glanced at me over her coffee. "Your sister called," I said, testing the waters. She looked up, one perfectly sculpted eyebrow arched. "Which one?" "Faye said she wanted to talk." Something flickered in Erica's eyes. Surprise? Fear? It was gone before I could pin it down. "About what?" I shrugged, pouring my own coffee. "Didn't say. Maybe she's lonely." "Faye's always lonely. It's what happens when you're a 35-year-old artist who thinks the world owes her something." Erica's voice had that familiar edge, the one she used on difficult clients. "You're not actually thinking of calling her, are you?" "Maybe. You said I should try her if I was desperate." The coffee mug slipped from her fingers, shattering against the kitchen floor. Brown liquid spread across the tiles like spilled blood. "I never said that." But her face told a different story. Guilt was written all over it, along with something else. Panic. "My mistake," I said, grabbing paper towels. "Must have been dreaming." She watched me clean up the mess, her jaw tight. "I have showings all day. Don't wait up." After she left, I sat in the kitchen for a long time, staring at the coffee stains I couldn't quite scrub out. 22 years, and it had come to this. Lies, affairs, and cruel jokes at my expense. I thought about our daughter Sam, away at college, blissfully unaware that her parents were strangers living in the same house. I thought about the man on the phone, the one who made her feel alive. Most of all, I thought about Faye. Erica's younger sister had always been the black sheep of the family. Too wild, too honest, too real for their taste. She lived in a converted loft downtown, painted abstract nightmares, and said exactly what she thought. The family tolerated her, barely. Maybe it was time I paid her a visit. The drive downtown gave me time to think, which was dangerous. My neighborhood was all crumbling row houses and corner stores with bars on the windows. Faye's part of town was different. Old warehouses turned into artist studios, coffee shops that served drinks I couldn't pronounce, people who looked like they'd stepped out of magazines I'd never read. I found her building wedged between a vintage clothing store and a place that sold nothing but different kinds of tea. The buzzer was labeled F. Morrison in her messy handwriting. "Gary?" Her voice crackled through the intercom. "What are you doing here?" "Taking your sister's advice." A pause. Then the door buzzed open. Her loft was exactly what I'd expected. High ceilings, exposed brick, canvases everywhere in various states of completion. Most of them were dark, angry things that looked like they'd been painted during a fever dream. The smell of turpentine and coffee hung in the air like incense. Faye herself was a study in contradictions. Where Erica was all sharp angles and careful presentation, Faye was soft curves and comfortable chaos. Paint-stained jeans, oversized sweater, auburn hair that looked like she'd styled it with her fingers. She was beautiful in a way that snuck up on you. "You look like hell," she said, which was probably true. "Feel worse." She poured 2 glasses of wine without asking if I wanted any. It was barely noon, but I didn't argue. "So, what's this about my sister's advice?" I told her. Not everything, but enough. The phone call, the cruel joke, the slow death of everything I'd thought was real. She listened without interrupting, her green eyes never leaving my face. "I'm sorry," she said when I finished. "For what?" "For my sister being a witch. For you finding out this way. For—" She gestured vaguely at the space between us. "For this being weird." "Is it weird?" She considered this, swirling wine in her glass. "Should be. You're my brother-in-law, but honestly, I've always thought Erica was an idiot for not appreciating what she had." The words hit me like a punch I wasn't expecting. When was the last time someone had said something kind about me? When was the last time I'd felt like anything other than a disappointment? We talked for hours, about art, about dreams deferred, about the slow poison of settling for less than you deserve. She showed me her paintings, not the angry ones, but the others. Hidden canvases that captured light and hope in ways that made my chest ache. "Why don't you show these?" I asked. "Because hope doesn't sell. People want their art angry or pretty, nothing in between." "That's bullshit." She smiled, the first real smile I'd seen in months. "Yeah, it is." Somewhere between the 3rd glass of wine and her story about why she'd never married, the space between us disappeared. It wasn't planned, wasn't calculated. It just happened, like rain or sunrise or any other natural thing. Afterward, we lay tangled in her sheets, listening to the city wake up outside her windows. I felt more alive than I had in years, which should have made me feel guilty. Instead, I felt grateful. "This is going to complicate things," she said softly. Things were already complicated. She turned to face me, her hair spread across the pillow like spilled copper. "What happens now?" Before I could answer, her phone buzzed, then mine, then hers again. "Shit," she whispered, looking at the screen. "It's Mrs. Patterson from next door. She sent a picture." My blood turned to ice. The picture showed my Mustang parked outside Faye's building, clear as day. The timestamp was from this morning. "She sent it to Erica, too," Faye said, showing me the message thread. My phone rang. Erica's name flashed on the screen like a warning. "Don't answer it," Faye said. But I was already swiping to accept. Some conversations you can't avoid forever. "You jerk." Erica's voice was pure venom. "How dare you?" "How dare I what? Take your advice?" I didn't mean... "What? You didn't mean for me to actually do it? Just suffer in silence while you screw around with your boyfriend?" Silence. Then, "I'm coming over there." The line went dead. Faye was already getting dressed. She knows about us? She knows I know about her. The rest she's about to find out. 20 minutes later, Erica was pounding on the door like the building was on fire. Faye let her in, and my wife swept into the loft like an avenging angel in designer clothes. "Are you out of your goddamn mind?" she screamed at me. "With my sister?" Seemed like the logical choice. You said she might appreciate my limited talents. Erica's face went white. "You were listening." "Hard not to. You weren't exactly whispering." She turned on Faye, who was leaning against the kitchen counter with her arms crossed. "And you? How could you do this to me?" "Do what? Sleep with your husband? The one you've been cheating on for months?" Erica's mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. "That's different." "How?" Because you thought Gary would just sit there and take it?" Faye's voice was steady, controlled. "Because you thought you could humiliate him and he'd be grateful for the scraps?" "He is grateful. Look at him. Middle-aged warehouse manager with a beer gut and a rusted-out car. I'm the best thing that ever happened to him." The words hit like physical blows, but I didn't flinch. I'd heard worse from her lately. "Were," I said quietly. "You were the best thing that happened to me. Past tense." Something shifted in her expression. For the first time since she'd walked in, she looked uncertain. "Gary, this is insane. We can work this out. We can go to counseling, take a vacation, whatever you want. But this..." She gestured at Faye. "This is just you acting out." "Maybe. Or maybe it's me finally waking up." Faye stepped forward. "Erica, there's something you should know." My wife's eyes narrowed. "What?" "I know about Gavin." The name hit Erica like a slap. She actually staggered backward. I know about the hotel receipts, the late-night phone calls, the weekend business trips that don't show up on your calendar. I know about the credit card you think Gary doesn't know about, and I know about the apartment you're thinking of renting downtown. How could you possibly? Because I'm not blind, and because Gavin's wife hired me to paint her portrait last month. Funny thing about portrait sessions. People talk, they tell you things about their marriages, their suspicions, their plans to hire a private investigator. Erica sank into a chair like her strings had been cut. So here's what's going to happen, Faye continued. You're going to go home and think very carefully about what you want, because Gary's not your safety net anymore. He's not going to sit there while you figure out if the grass is greener somewhere else. And if I don't? Faye smiled, but it wasn't a nice smile. Then everyone finds out. Your parents, your friends, your boss. Everyone. After Erica left, Faye and I sat in the wreckage of the morning, trying to figure out what came next. You didn't have to do that, I said. Yes, I did. She's been walking all over you for years, Gary. Someone had to call her on it. What happens now? She took my hand, her fingers warm against mine. Now we find out what you're really made of. The next few days passed in a haze of whispered phone calls and meaningful looks. Erica went through the motions of normal life, coffee in the morning, real estate showings during the day, takeout dinners eaten in silence. But underneath the routine, something was building. I could feel it in the way she watched me, like I was a bomb that might go off at any moment. She wasn't wrong. The neighborhood gossip network kicked into high gear faster than I'd expected. Small towns are like that. Everyone knows everyone else's business, usually before they know it themselves. By Tuesday, I was getting looks at the grocery store. By Wednesday, my phone was buzzing with texts from people I hadn't heard from in months. Heard you and Erica are having some trouble, read one from my old bowling teammate Mike. If you need to talk, I'm here. Is it true about you and Faye? Came from Janet, who lived 3 houses down and had never spoken to me before in her life. The worst was from Sam, calling from college. Dad, what's going on? Mom called crying, and now Aunt Faye won't answer her phone. I told her everything was fine, that adults sometimes had disagreements, that it would all work out. The lies tasted like ash in my mouth. Thursday evening, Sal cornered me at the gym. Sal Benedetto had been running Murphy's boxing club since before I was born, training kids from the neighborhood who had too much anger and not enough direction. I'd been one of those kids once, back when I still believed I could fight my way out of anything. You look like shit, Torino, he said, wrapping my hands for a session with the heavy bag. Thanks, Sal. Always know just what to say. I'm serious. Whatever's eating you, work it out on the bag, not on yourself. I spent the next hour trying to punch my problems into submission. It didn't work, but it felt good to hit something that couldn't hit back. Better? Sal asked afterward, watching me unwrap my hands. Getting there. Good. Because there's something you should know. That pretty boy your wife's been seen around town with? He was here yesterday, asking questions about you. My blood went cold. What kind of questions? The kind that make me think he's measuring you for a coffin. Wanted to know about your temper, whether you'd ever been in real trouble, if you knew how to handle yourself in a fight. What did you tell him? Sal grinned, showing teeth that had seen better decades. Told him you were a pussy who couldn't punch his way out of a paper bag. Figured it was better if he underestimated you. That night, Erica came home late, smelling like expensive cologne and lies. She found me in the kitchen, nursing a beer and pretending to read the newspaper. We need to talk, she said. Now you want to talk? She sat across from me, her real estate mask firmly in place. This has gone far enough, Gary. What happened with Faye was a mistake, for both of you, but we can move past it. Can we? Yes, if you're willing to be reasonable. I set down my beer and really looked at her. Even after everything, she was beautiful. Polished, controlled, perfect. But perfection had a price, and I was tired of paying it. What does reasonable look like? Counseling, a fresh start. Maybe we take that trip to Europe we always talked about. And Gavin? Her composure slipped for just a moment. What about him? Does he get to come to Europe too? There is no Gavin. Not the way you think. Then explain it to me. She took a deep breath like she was about to dive into deep water. He's my business partner. We work closely together. Maybe too closely. But it's not what you think. I heard you on the phone, Erica. I heard what you said about feeling alive. You misunderstood? Bullshit. The word came out harder than I'd intended. I've been misunderstanding for months, apparently. The late nights, the mysterious phone calls, the credit card bills for restaurants I've never been to. I'm a lot of things, but I'm not stupid. She leaned forward, her eyes bright with unshed tears. It was a good performance. She'd probably practiced it in the mirror. Okay, yes, there's been someone else. But it's over now. It has to be, after what you did with Faye. What I did with Faye was honest. Can you say the same? Honest. Her voice rose an octave. You call sleeping with my sister honest? More honest than sneaking around behind my back for months. She stood up abruptly, her chair scraping against the floor. I can't do this. I can't sit here and listen to you justify. Then don't. Leave. Go to Gavin's place, or that apartment Faye mentioned, or wherever it is you'd rather be. Is that what you want? The question hung in the air between us like smoke. What did I want? A month ago, I would have said I wanted my marriage back. Now I wasn't sure I wanted the woman sitting across from me in my life at all. I want the truth, I said finally. The truth is that I love you. I've always loved you. But somewhere along the way, we stopped being a team. We became strangers living in the same house. And whose fault is that? Both of ours. Mine for looking elsewhere for what was missing. Yours for letting me. It was a neat piece of logic, putting half the blame on me for her betrayal. Classic Erica, even her apologies came with conditions. So what now? I asked. Now we decide if 22 years means anything, or if we're going to throw it all away for a few moments of revenge. She left me sitting there with that thought, her heels clicking on the stairs like a countdown timer. I finished my beer and went to bed, but sleep was elusive. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Faye's face, heard her laugh, felt her skin against mine. The next morning brought a new complication. I was getting ready for work when the doorbell rang. Through the peephole, I could see a man in an expensive suit holding a briefcase. He looked like money and trouble in equal measure. Gary Torino? He said when I opened the door. Depends who's asking. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. Gavin Mitchell, I think we need to talk. So this was him. Erica's golden boy, the man who made her feel alive. He was younger than me by maybe 5 years, with the kind of looks that came from good genes and better dental work. His handshake was firm, his cologne subtle but expensive. Everything about him screamed success. I hated him on sight. Nice place, he said, looking around our modest living room like he was appraising it for sale. It's home. What do you want, Mitchell? To clear the air. This situation has gotten out of hand. You mean your affair with my wife? He had the grace to look uncomfortable. It's complicated. No, it's really not. You're screwing my wife. I'm screwing her sister. The only complicated part is figuring out who's getting screwed the hardest. Look, I know you're angry. Do you? Because you seem pretty calm for someone who just walked into the home of a man whose marriage you helped destroy. I didn't destroy anything that wasn't already broken. The words hit like a sucker punch, partly because they might have been true. Erica and I had been drifting for years, 2 ships passing in the night, but that didn't give him the right to move in on the wreckage. So what's your play here, Mitchell? You want to buy me out? Offer me money to disappear quietly? I want to find a solution that works for everyone. Everyone meaning you and Erica. Everyone meaning all of us, including your daughter. The mention of Sam made my hands clench into fists. Leave my daughter out of this. She's already in it. Do you think she wants to see her parents destroy each other in public? Do you think she wants to explain to her friends why her father is sleeping with her aunt? Better than explaining why her mother is a cheating. Careful. His voice dropped to a whisper. You don't want to say something you'll regret. Is that a threat? It's advice, from someone who's been where you are. You've been cheated on? I've been angry. I've wanted revenge. I've made choices I regretted later. He leaned forward, his expression earnest. Don't make the same mistakes I did. What mistakes were those? But he was already standing, straightening his tie. Think about what I said, Gary. Think about what's best for everyone. After he left, I sat in my living room for a long time, trying to process what had just happened. The man was smooth, I'd give him that. He'd managed to threaten me while sounding like he was offering help, made me feel like the villain in my own story. But there had been something else in his eyes when he mentioned making mistakes, something that looked almost like fear. That afternoon, I drove to Faye's loft. She was working on a new painting when I arrived, something dark and violent that looked like a storm made flesh. Rough day? I asked. Getting rougher. Erica called this morning. She wants to meet. About what? About us. About what happens next. She set down her brush and turned to face me. Gary, I need to tell you something. The seriousness in her voice made my stomach drop. What? I wasn't completely honest yesterday about how I knew about Gavin. What do you mean? She took a deep breath. I didn't just paint his wife's portrait. I've been watching them, following them, taking pictures. Why? Because I've been in love with you for 10 years, and I was tired of watching my sister treat you like garbage. The confession hit me like a physical blow. Faye, I know how it sounds, creepy, obsessive, whatever, but I couldn't stand by and watch anymore. So I started documenting everything. The hotels, the restaurants, the times she said she was working late but was really with him. She walked to a filing cabinet and pulled out a thick folder. Inside were photographs, receipts, printed emails, phone records. It was a complete dossier of my wife's affair, compiled with the thoroughness of a private investigator. This is insane, I said, flipping through the evidence. This is justice, or it will be when you're ready to use it. I stared at the photographs. Erica and Gavin entering hotels, sharing intimate dinners, kissing in parking lots. The evidence of my marriage's death, captured in vivid color. What do you want me to do with this? Whatever you think is right. But Gary, she touched my arm gently. Don't let them make you the villain. You're not the one who broke your vows. That evening, I made a decision. If Gavin wanted to play games, I'd show him how the game was really played. I started with social media, creating anonymous accounts, and slowly, carefully beginning to plant seeds. A comment here, a shared photo there, nothing too obvious. Just enough to get people talking. Then I called Sam. Dad? She sounded surprised. Is everything okay? I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest with me. Okay. How long have you known about your mother and Gavin? Silence stretched between us like a tightrope. When she finally spoke, her voice was small and sad. Since Christmas, I saw them at a restaurant near campus. They didn't see me. Why didn't you say anything? What was I supposed to say? Hey, Dad, Mom's cheating on you? I kept hoping it would just end. I'm sorry you had to carry that alone. I'm sorry you had to find out at all. We talked for another hour, about everything and nothing, about her classes, her friends, her fears for our family's future. By the time we hung up, I felt like I'd been hit by a truck, but I also felt something else, resolve. The next morning, I put my plan into action. It started small, a few well-placed phone calls to mutual friends, some carefully worded questions about Erica's business trips. I wasn't lying, exactly, just asking questions and letting people draw their own conclusions. The response was immediate. By noon, my phone was buzzing with calls from people who suddenly had opinions about my marriage. By evening, the neighborhood gossip network was in full swing. Erica came home looking like she'd been through a blender. What did you do? She demanded. I don't know what you mean. People are talking, Gary. People are asking questions. What kind of questions? You know what kind. I shrugged, not trusting myself to speak. The truth was, I felt sick about what I'd started, but I also felt something I hadn't felt in months. Powerful. This has to stop, she said. What has to stop? The gossip, the rumors, whatever game you think you're playing. I'm not playing any games. I'm just living my life. By destroying mine? I'm not destroying anything that wasn't already broken. Isn't that what your boyfriend said? She stared at me for a long moment, like she was seeing me for the first time. You're not the man I married, she said finally. No, I agreed. I'm not. The man you married was a fool who believed in fairy tales. This is who I am when I'm not pretending to be someone else. That night, she packed a bag and left for her sister's house. Not Faye's, her other sister, Monica, who lived in the suburbs and had always disapproved of me anyway. I should have felt victorious. Instead, I felt empty. But the emptiness didn't last long, because the next morning, I got a call that changed everything. Mr. Torino, this is Detective Sarah Chen with the city police. We need to talk. Detective Chen was nothing like I'd expected. Young, maybe early 30s, with sharp eyes that seemed to catalog everything in the room. She sat across from me in my living room, a digital recorder on the coffee table between us like a small black judge. Mr. Torino, we've received some disturbing reports about your recent behavior. My mouth went dry. What kind of reports? Harassment, stalking, making threats against your wife and her business partner. I haven't harassed anyone. According to Mr. Mitchell, you've been spreading malicious rumors designed to damage both his and your wife's professional reputations. I almost laughed. Almost. Rumors? You mean the truth about their affair? Mr. Mitchell claims there is no affair. He says you've become obsessed with the idea due to mental health issues stemming from your recent unemployment. I'm not unemployed. I manage a warehouse. She consulted her notes. According to the complaint, You were recently demoted and are facing possible termination due to erratic behavior. The room spun slightly. That was news to me. Who told you that? Is it true? No, it's not true. I've worked at Morrison Logistics for 12 years. My supervisor is Pete Kowalski. You can call him. She made a note. We will. Mr. Torino, I have to ask, are you currently taking any medication, seeing a therapist, anything that might explain your recent actions? My recent actions? You mean finding out my wife is cheating and not taking it lying down? I mean creating fake social media accounts to spread rumors, following your wife to her workplace, and making threatening phone calls to Mr. Mitchell's residence. I never called his house. His phone records show 3 calls from your number in the past week. I stared at her, my mind racing. That's impossible. Mr. Torino, I'm going to be straight with you. Right now, this is just a complaint. No charges have been filed. But if this behavior continues, that could change. Do you understand? I understood, all right. I was being set up, and I'd walked right into it. After Detective Chen left, I sat in my kitchen staring at my phone. 3 calls to Gavin's house that I'd never made. Social media accounts I'd never created. A demotion at work that had never happened. Someone was playing a very sophisticated game, and I was losing badly. I called Pete at work. Hey Pete, it's Gary. Quick question. Have there been any complaints about my performance lately? Complaints? Hell no. Why? Just checking, everything's good on your end? Better than good. That Morrison account you landed last month put us ahead of quota. Why? Someone saying different? No, just, thanks, Pete. Next, I called Faye. They're setting me up, I told her. Who's setting you up? I explained about Detective Chen's visit, the phone calls I'd never made, the social media accounts that didn't exist. Gary, slow down. You're not making sense. I'm making perfect sense. Gavin and Erica are trying to make me look crazy, unhinged, dangerous. Why would they do that? Because they want me out of the picture, and this is how they're doing it. Silence on the other end. Then, Gary, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest with me. Okay. Did you create any fake accounts? Did you call Gavin's house? No. Jesus, Faye, you think I'm lying? I think you're under a lot of stress. I think you might have done things you don't remember doing. The betrayal hit me like a physical blow. If Faye didn't believe me, who would? I have to go, I said. Gary, wait. I hung up and threw the phone across the room. It hit the wall and shattered, pieces of plastic scattering across the floor like my life. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about Gavin's visit, the way he'd looked around my house like he was casing it, the way he'd mentioned making mistakes, the fear in his eyes when he'd said it. Around 3 a.m, I gave up on sleep and went to my computer. If someone was creating fake accounts in my name, maybe I could find them. It took 2 hours, but I found them. 3 Facebook accounts, 2 Twitter profiles, and an Instagram account, all using variations of my name and photos stolen from my real accounts. The posts were subtle at first, vague complaints about marriage, hints about unfaithful spouses. But they got progressively darker, more threatening. The most recent post made my blood run cold. Some people deserve what's coming to them. E and G better watch their backs. I screenshotted everything, then tried to report the accounts as fake, but Facebook's response was automated and unhelpful. The accounts would be reviewed, but that could take days or weeks. Days I didn't have. The next morning, I drove to Gavin's office. Mitchell and Associates Real Estate occupied the top floor of a glass tower downtown, all chrome and marble and intimidation. The receptionist was a young woman with perfect teeth and a practiced smile. I'm here to see Gavin Mitchell, I said. Do you have an appointment? Tell him Gary Torino is here. He'll see me. She made a phone call, spoke in hushed tones, then hung up with a frown. I'm sorry. Mr. Mitchell is in meetings all day. Then I'll wait. Sir, that's really not... I'll wait. I took a seat in the lobby and settled in. The receptionist kept glancing at me nervously, probably wondering if I was the kind of crazy that made the news. After an hour, she made another phone call. 10 minutes later, security showed up. Sir, you need to leave, the guard said. He was young, built like a bouncer, with the kind of confidence that came from never having been really tested. I'm not doing anything wrong. This is a public building. You're trespassing. Leave now, or we call the police. I looked around the lobby, at the marble floors, the expensive art, the perfectly manicured plants. This was Gavin's world, where everything was controlled and sanitized and safe. Tell your boss I'll be back, I said. Sir, tell him Gary Torino said he'll be back. I left before they could call the cops, but I'd made my point, or so I thought. That afternoon, Detective Chen called. "Mr. Torino, we have a problem." "What now?" "You were at Mitchell and Associates this morning, correct?" "I was in the lobby of a public building. According to witnesses, you made threats against Mr. Mitchell." "I never threatened anyone." "You told security you'd be back. In the context of your recent behavior, that could be interpreted as a threat. It could also be interpreted as a statement of fact. Mr. Torino, I'm trying to help you here, but you're making it very difficult." "I'm being framed, Detective. Someone is creating fake accounts in my name, making phone calls from my number, spreading lies about my job performance. This is a setup." "Do you have any proof of that?" I told her about the social media accounts, offered to send her the screenshots. She listened patiently, made appropriate noises, but I could hear the skepticism in her voice. "We'll look into it," she said finally. "But in the meantime, you need to stay away from Mr. Mitchell and your wife. No contact, no visits to their workplaces, no social media posts. Can you do that?" "What if they contact me?" "Then you don't respond." "Mr. Torino, I'm serious about this. Any further contact could result in a restraining order." After she hung up, I sat in my empty house and tried to figure out my next move. They had me boxed in. Any action I took could be interpreted as harassment or stalking. Any attempt to defend myself would be seen as the desperate lies of an unhinged man. It was a perfect trap. That's when I remembered something Sal had said at the gym. "Think like a fighter. Don't punch till you know you'll land it." I'd been punching wildly, letting my anger control my actions. It was time to start thinking strategically. I called Faye. "Gary, thank God. I've been worried sick." "I need your help." "Of course. Anything." "I need you to do something for me. Something that might be dangerous." "What kind of dangerous?" "I need you to get close to Gavin. Find out what he's really afraid of." "Gary, I don't think..." "Faye, they're going to destroy me. They're going to make me look like a crazy stalker, and then they're going to ride off into the sunset together, unless we stop them." "How am I supposed to get close to him?" "You're an artist. He's rich. Rich guys love buying art from beautiful women. It's like catnip to them." She was quiet for a long moment. "This is insane." "Probably. Will you do it?" Another pause. Then, "What do you need me to find out?" "Everything. His background, his finances, his secrets. Everyone has secrets, Faye. We just need to find his. And then what?" "Then we use them." The next morning, Faye called Gavin's office and set up an appointment to show him some of her work. She played the part perfectly. Struggling artist, desperate for a patron, willing to do almost anything for a sale. He agreed to meet her that evening at his home. "Be careful," I told her as she prepared to leave. "He's not as smooth as he pretends to be." "I can handle myself." "I know you can. But if anything feels wrong, get out of there." She kissed me gently. "I'll be fine. And Gary? We're going to beat them at their own game." I spent the evening pacing my empty house, checking my phone every 5 minutes, imagining all the ways this could go wrong. What if Gavin recognized her as Erica's sister? What if he suspected something? What if he was more dangerous than we'd realized? At midnight, my phone finally rang. "You're not going to believe what I found out," Faye said. "Tell me." "Not over the phone. Come over, now." I broke at least 3 traffic laws getting to her loft. She was waiting for me with a bottle of wine and a manila folder thick with documents. "How did it go?" I asked. "Better than I hoped. Gavin Mitchell is not the man he pretends to be." She opened the folder and spread the contents across her kitchen table. Bank statements, legal documents, newspaper clippings, photographs. "His real name is Gary Michaels," she said. "He changed it legally 5 years ago, right after he got out of prison." My heart stopped. "Prison?" 3 years for fraud and embezzlement. He was running a real estate scam in Phoenix, selling properties he didn't own to elderly investors. I stared at the documents, trying to process what I was seeing. "How did you get all this?" "He's not as smart as he thinks he is. Left his laptop open while he went to get more wine. I had about 10 minutes to copy files to a flash drive. This is incredible. We can destroy him with this. It gets better. Look at this." She handed me a bank statement showing regular transfers to an account in the Cayman Islands. "He's been skimming money from the real estate business, Erica's business. She doesn't know it, but she's been funding his retirement plan. She's going to lose everything. Everything. Her business, her reputation, probably her real estate license. When this comes out, she'll be lucky if she doesn't go to prison herself." I should have felt triumphant. Instead, I felt sick. Erica had betrayed me, humiliated me, tried to destroy me. But she was still the mother of my daughter, still the woman I'd loved for 22 years. "Gary?" Faye was watching me carefully. "Are you okay?" She doesn't deserve this, doesn't she? She was willing to let you take the fall for harassment and stalking. She was willing to let them destroy your reputation, your job, your relationship with Sam. I know, but nothing. She made her choice. Now she gets to live with the consequences. Faye was right, and I knew it. But knowing something and feeling it are two different things. What do we do with this? I asked. We use it. But not yet. First, we need to make sure we have everything. Every document, every secret, every lie. We only get one shot at this, Gary. We need to make it count. How long do we have? Not long. He's getting suspicious. Kept asking questions about my family, whether I had any sisters in real estate. I don't think he's made the connection yet, but he will. Then we move fast. Agreed. But Gary, when we do this, there's no going back. Gavin will go to prison. Erica will lose everything. Your marriage will be over forever. I thought about that. About 22 years of marriage. About the woman I'd fallen in love with. About the family we'd built together. Then I thought about the fake social media accounts, the lies to the police, the systematic destruction of my reputation. It's already over, I said. Then let's finish it. The plan came together over the next 3 days like pieces of a jigsaw puzzle made of dynamite. Faye had done more than just copy files from Gavin's laptop. She'd planted a small recording device in his home office, disguised as a decorative pen holder she'd given him as a thank you for considering her art. The conversations we captured were better than anything I could have imagined. The Torino situation is getting out of hand. Gavin's voice crackled through Faye's speakers. He's starting to ask the right questions. What kind of questions? Erica's voice, tense and worried. About my background, about the business, about where the money's been going. You said you'd handled all that. I did handle it. The identity change, the sealed records, the shell companies. But if he keeps digging, then we make sure he stops digging. How? The same way we've been handling it. More complaints to the police, maybe an incident at his workplace, something that makes him look unstable. Erica, I don't like where this is going. You should have thought of that before you started skimming from my accounts. Silence. Then Gavin's voice, lower and more dangerous. Careful, sweetheart. You're in this as deep as I am. Am I? Because from where I'm sitting, you're the one with the criminal record. And you're the one who's been signing the fake documents. You think the state licensing board is going to care that you didn't know what you were signing? The recording continued for another 20 minutes, each revelation more damning than the last. They'd been running a sophisticated real estate fraud, using Erica's legitimate business as a front for Gavin's illegal activities. Elderly clients were being overcharged for services, properties were being flipped using fraudulent appraisals, and money was being funneled through a network of shell companies. Erica wasn't an innocent victim, she was a willing participant. Jesus, I said when the recording ended. She's been doing this for months. Years, Faye corrected, showing me more documents. Look at these bank statements. The pattern goes back at least 3 years, maybe longer. I stared at the evidence of my wife's crimes, feeling like I'd been punched in the stomach. The woman I'd married, the mother of my child, was a criminal. Worse, she'd been using our joint accounts to launder money, making me an unwitting accessory to her crimes. We have to turn this over to the police, I said. Not yet. If we go to the police now, they'll just arrest Gavin and Erica. The money will disappear, the victims won't get compensated, and Gavin's partners will scatter to the wind. Partners? She showed me another document, a list of names and bank account numbers. He's not working alone. There's a whole network of people involved in this. Real estate agents, appraisers, bank officers, even a few lawyers. How big is this thing? Big enough to make national news when it breaks. I thought about that, about the media circus, the publicity, the impact on Sam. My daughter was going to find out that her mother was a criminal, that her father was either a fool or an accomplice. There has to be another way, I said. There is, but you're not going to like it. Tell me. Faye pulled up a chair and sat across from me, her expression serious. We expose them publicly, all of them, all at once, make it impossible for anyone to run or hide. How? The annual Realtors Association Gala is tomorrow night. Every major real estate professional in the state will be there, along with reporters, politicians, and potential clients. If we're going to expose this conspiracy, that's the place to do it. They'll have security. We'll never get close enough to... We don't need to get close. We just need to get the evidence to the right people at the right time. She outlined her plan, and she was right. I didn't like it. It was risky, complicated, and required perfect timing. But it was also brilliant. What about afterward? I asked. When this all comes out? When the dust settles? What do you mean? I mean us, you and me. Where does this leave us? She was quiet for a long moment, studying my face. I don't know. I've been in love with you for 10 years, Gary. But I fell in love with a married man? A man who was committed to someone else? When this is over, you won't be that man anymore. Will that change how you feel? I don't know. Will it change how you feel? I didn't have an answer for that. Everything I'd thought I knew about my life had been turned upside down. My marriage was a lie, my wife was a criminal, and I was about to destroy everything I'd spent 22 years building. But looking at Faye, seeing the love and loyalty in her eyes, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Hope. Let's do it, I said. The Realtors Association Gala was held at the Grand Ballroom of the Marriott downtown, a glittering affair full of expensive clothes and fake smiles. I watched from across the street as the city's real estate elite filed into the building, Erica and Gavin among them. My wife looked stunning in a black cocktail dress that probably cost more than I made in a week. Gavin was beside her in a perfectly tailored tuxedo, playing the part of the successful businessman. They looked like the perfect couple, and maybe they were, perfectly matched in their ambition and their willingness to lie, cheat, and steal to get what they wanted. You ready for this? Faye asked. She was dressed as a server, complete with a fake ID badge and a tray of champagne glasses. As ready as I'll ever be. Remember, once we start this, there's no stopping it. I know. She kissed me gently, then disappeared into the building through the service entrance. I waited 5 minutes, then followed her inside. The ballroom was everything I'd expected: crystal chandeliers, marble floors, and enough money in one room to fund a small country. I spotted Erica and Gavin at a table near the front, schmoozing with potential clients and industry bigwigs. I made my way to the audio-visual booth, where a young technician was managing the evening's presentation. He looked bored and underpaid. Exactly what I'd hoped for. Excuse me, I said, showing him the fake press credentials Faye had made for me. I'm with the Tribune. We're doing a story on the gala. Mind if I get some shots of the AV set up? He shrugged. Sure, whatever. While he was distracted, I plugged Faye's flash drive into the presentation computer and uploaded our files. The whole process took less than 30 seconds. Thanks, I said, pocketing the drive. Great setup you've got here. Yeah, it's okay. Pretty boring gig, though. If only he knew. I found a spot near the back of the room and waited. The evening's program was predictable: awards, speeches, networking. Erica was called to the stage to accept an award for excellence in client service, which would have been funny if it weren't so sickening. She gave a gracious acceptance speech about integrity and trust, about building lasting relationships with clients. The applause was enthusiastic, and I felt sick watching her perform. Then it was time for the keynote presentation, a slideshow about the future of real estate in the digital age. The lights dimmed, and the first slide appeared on the massive screen behind the podium. It wasn't about digital real estate. It was a bank statement showing a transfer of $50,000 from Erica's business account to a shell company in the Cayman Islands. A murmur went through the crowd. The presenter, confused, tried to advance to the next slide. Instead, he got a photograph of Gavin entering a hotel with an elderly client, followed by documentation showing that the same client had been overcharged $30,000 for a property appraisal. What the hell? Someone shouted from the audience. The slides kept coming. Bank records, legal documents, recorded conversations, photographs, 3 years of fraud and embezzlement laid out in excruciating detail for everyone to see. I watched Erica's face as the truth unfolded on the screen behind her. Shock gave way to horror, then to panic. She looked around the room desperately, as if searching for an escape route. Gavin was already moving, pushing through the crowd toward the exit. But hotel security had been alerted. Faye had made sure of that, and they were waiting for him. Ladies and gentlemen, I said, standing up and speaking loudly enough to be heard over the chaos. My name is Gary Torino. The woman on stage is my wife, and the man being detained by security is her business partner and lover. The room fell silent, except for the sound of camera phones clicking and reporters scribbling notes. For the past 3 years, they've been running a sophisticated fraud operation, targeting elderly clients and stealing money from investors. The evidence you've just seen represents over $2 million in fraudulent transactions. Erica finally found her voice. Gary, stop this. You don't know what you're doing. I know exactly what I'm doing. I'm exposing the truth about the woman who tried to have me arrested for harassment when I got too close to discovering her crimes. You're insane. Everyone knows you're having a breakdown. Am I? Then explain the bank records. Explain the shell companies. Explain why your business partner is really Gary Michaels, a convicted felon who served 3 years in prison for real estate fraud. That got a reaction from the crowd. Cameras flashed, reporters pushed forward, and someone started shouting questions. The evidence has already been turned over to the FBI, I continued, along with a list of victims and documentation of money laundering through offshore accounts. It wasn't true, not yet, but it would be by morning. Erica stepped down from the stage, her composure finally cracking. Gary, please, think about Sam. Think about our daughter. I am thinking about her. I'm thinking about the fact that you've been using our joint accounts to launder money, making her an accessory to your crimes. I'm thinking about the fact that you were willing to let me go to prison to protect your boyfriend. That's not... It's over, Erica. All of it. Security moved in then, not to arrest me, but to escort Erica and Gavin from the building. The FBI would be waiting for them outside. Faye had made that call an hour ago. As they were led away, Erica looked back at me one last time. There was no love in her eyes, no regret, just pure hatred. You'll pay for this, she said. No, I replied. You will. The ballroom erupted in chaos as reporters swarmed and guests tried to process what they'd just witnessed. I slipped out through the service exit where Faye was waiting for me. How do you feel? She asked. I thought about it. 22 years of marriage, gone. My wife, facing federal charges. My daughter, about to learn that her mother was a criminal. Free, I said. And for the first time in months, I meant it. The media circus started before dawn. By 6 a.m., there were news vans parked outside my house, reporters shouting questions through my windows, and helicopters circling overhead like mechanical vultures. The story had everything the news loved: intimacy, money, betrayal, and a spectacular public downfall. I watched the coverage from Faye's loft, drinking coffee and trying to process the magnitude of what we'd unleashed. The FBI had arrested Erica and Gavin at the hotel, along with 3 other members of their conspiracy. The fraud investigation was already being called the largest real estate scam in state history. Gary Torino, the warehouse manager whose wife tried to have him committed for discovering her crimes, brought down a multi-million-dollar fraud ring last night at the annual Realtors Association gala, the reporter was saying. Sources close to the investigation say Torino spent months gathering evidence while his wife and her partner attempted to discredit him through false harassment claims. They're making you sound like a hero, Faye said. I don't feel like a hero. What do you feel like? I thought about it. Like a man who just burned down his own house to kill the rats. My phone had been ringing nonstop since the story broke. Reporters, lawyers, federal agents, friends I hadn't heard from in years. I'd turned it off around 7, but I could see the voicemail notifications piling up. The one call I was dreading finally came through Faye's landline around noon. Dad? Sam's voice was small and shaky. I saw the news. I'm sorry, sweetheart. I'm so sorry you had to find out this way. Is it true? About Mom? Yes. She was quiet for a long time. When she spoke again, she was crying. How long have you known? About the affair? A few weeks? About the fraud? Just a few days? Why didn't you tell me? Because I hoped I was wrong. Because I wanted to protect you from this. I can't believe she's really gone to jail. She's been arrested. She'll probably make bail, but Sam, this is serious. The FBI has evidence of crimes going back 3 years. She's looking at federal prison time. More silence. Then, what happens to us now? I don't know. But whatever happens, I love you. That hasn't changed. I love you too, Dad. And Dad, I'm proud of you. For what? For not letting them destroy you. After we hung up, I sat in Faye's kitchen and cried. Not for Erica, not for my marriage, but for my daughter, who was going to spend the rest of her life dealing with the consequences of her mother's choices. She'll be okay, Faye said, putting her arms around me. She's stronger than you think. She shouldn't have to be strong. She's 19 years old. She should be worried about college and boys and what she's going to do with her life, not whether her mother is going to prison. You didn't do this to her. Erica did. I could have handled it differently, quietly, through lawyers and private investigators. And let them frame you for harassment? Let them destroy your reputation while they stole millions from elderly victims? She was right, but it didn't make me feel any better. The doorbell rang, and Faye went to answer it. I heard voices in the hallway, then she returned with Detective Chen. Mr. Torino, the detective said, we need to talk. Am I under arrest? No, actually, I owe you an apology. The harassment complaints against you were fabricated. Mr. Mitchell, or Michaels, I should say, has admitted to creating the fake social media accounts and making the threatening phone calls from a spoofed number. Why? Because you were getting too close to the truth. They needed to discredit you before you could expose their operation. What happens now? Now you're a witness in a federal fraud case. The FBI will want to interview you, probably multiple times. But Mr. Torino, what you did last night, it took courage. Or stupidity. She smiled. Sometimes they're the same thing. After she left, Faye and I tried to return to some semblance of normal life. But normal was a foreign concept now. Every time we left the loft, reporters followed us. Every time we turned on the TV, there was another update on the case. My face was on the front page of newspapers across the country, usually next to Erica's mugshot. The strangest part was the reaction from people who knew me. Neighbors who'd barely acknowledged my existence for years were suddenly treating me like a celebrity. Co-workers were calling me a hero. Even Sal, who'd seen me at my lowest points, was impressed. "You got balls, Torino," he said when I finally made it back to the gym. "Bigger balls than I gave you credit for." "I just wanted the truth to come out." "Bullshit. You wanted revenge, and you got it, in spades." He was right, of course. This had been about revenge from the beginning, but somewhere along the way it had become about something else. Justice for the victims Erica and Gavin had swindled, protection for future victims who might have fallen into their trap. That didn't make me a hero, but it made me feel less like a villain. 3 days after the gala, I got a visitor I wasn't expecting. Monica, Erica's older sister, showed up at my door looking like she'd aged 10 years in a week. "I need to talk to you," she said. "If you're here to defend Erica..." "I'm not. I'm here to thank you." That stopped me cold. "Thank me." "For stopping her before she destroyed our parents, too." She showed me documents, loan applications Erica had filed using their parents' property as collateral, credit cards she'd opened in their names, investment accounts she'd been draining to fund her lifestyle. "She's been stealing from them for 2 years, Monica said. "They're 80 years old, Gary. They trusted her completely." Jesus. "The FBI found all of this when they searched her office. If you hadn't exposed her when you did, she would have left them penniless." I stared at the documents, feeling sick. I'd thought I knew how low Erica had sunk, but apparently there were depths I hadn't imagined. "What can I do?" I asked. Nothing. It's too late to undo the damage." "But Gary, you saved them from worse. Much worse." After she left, I called Sam and told her about her grandparents. She took it better than I'd expected. By this point, nothing about her mother's crimes seemed to surprise her. "I want to see her," she said. "Your grandmother?" "Mom, I want to visit her in jail." "Sam, I don't think that's a good idea." "Why not? She's still my mother." "Because she's going to try to manipulate you. She's going to tell you this is all my fault, that I'm the villain in this story." "Maybe, but I need to hear it from her. I need to look her in the eye and ask her why she did this to our family." I couldn't argue with that. Sam was an adult, and she had the right to make her own decisions about her relationship with her mother. "Okay," I said, "but I'm coming with you." "Dad, not to the visit, but I'm driving you there and back. I'm not letting you face this alone." The county jail was everything you'd expect. Gray concrete, razor wire, and the kind of institutional despair that seeps into your bones. Sam and I sat in the parking lot for 10 minutes before she worked up the courage to go inside. "You don't have to do this," I said. "Yes, I do." I waited in the car while she went in to see her mother. An hour later, she came back out, her eyes red from crying, but her jaw set with determination. "How did it go?" I asked. "She blamed you for everything. Said you were jealous of her success, that you couldn't handle being married to a strong, independent woman." "I'm sorry." "Don't be, because I told her exactly what I thought of her excuses." "What did you say?" "I told her that strong, independent women don't steal from their own parents. I told her that successful people don't need to commit fraud to pay their bills, and I told her that if she ever tries to contact me again, I'll hang up on her." I was proud of my daughter in that moment, prouder than I'd ever been. She'd faced the worst truth about her mother and emerged stronger for it. "What happens now?" I asked. "Now we go home, and we figure out how to be a family without her." The trial was a media sensation that lasted 3 months. I testified twice, once for the prosecution and once in response to the defense's attempts to paint me as an obsessed stalker who'd fabricated evidence. The jury saw through their lies in less than 4 hours. Erica was sentenced to 8 years in federal prison. Gavin got 12, thanks to his prior record and his role as the ringleader. The other conspirators received sentences ranging from 2 to 6 years. The victims recovered most of their money through asset forfeiture and insurance claims. It wasn't a complete victory, but it was justice. Sam transferred to a college closer to home so she could be near me during the trial. We grew closer than we'd been since she was a child, united by the shared trauma of watching her mother's crimes unfold in public. Faye and I took things slowly. We'd been through hell together, but we both knew that relationships forged in crisis don't always survive in peacetime. We went to counseling, worked through our issues, and gradually built something real and lasting. 6 months after the trial ended, I proposed to her in the same loft where we'd planned Erica's downfall. She said yes, but not before making me promise that we'd never keep secrets from each other the way Erica and I had. It was an easy promise to make. The wedding was small, just Sam, a few close friends, and Sal, who insisted on giving Faye away since her own father had disowned her for destroying the family. It wasn't the fairy tale ending I'd imagined when I was young, but it was real, and it was ours. We honeymooned in Italy, staying in small towns where no one recognized my face from the newspapers. For 2 weeks, we were just another American couple, eating too much pasta and arguing over maps. On our last night in Rome, we sat on the Spanish Steps watching the sunset, and Faye asked me if I regretted any of it. "Which part?" I said. "All of it. The investigation, the public exposure, the destruction of your marriage." I thought about it. 22 years of marriage gone. My wife, serving time in federal prison. My daughter, forced to grow up too fast. My own reputation, forever linked to one of the biggest fraud cases in state history. "No," I said. "I don't regret it." Not even a little. Not even a little. Erica made her choices, and I made mine. The only thing I regret is that it took me so long to make them. We flew home the next day, back to our life in the city where everyone knew our story. Some people still treated me like a hero, others like a villain who destroyed his own family for revenge. I'd learned to live with both reactions. The truth, as always, was somewhere in between. I wasn't a hero. I was just a man who'd been pushed too far and had finally pushed back. I wasn't a villain either. I was a victim who'd refused to stay victimized. Most of all, I was free. Free from lies, free from betrayal, free from the slow poison of a marriage that had died years before I'd been willing to admit it. Standing in the airport, watching Faye laugh at something Sam had said, I realized that sometimes the only way to save your life is to burn down everything you thought you wanted. Sometimes the devil you know is worse than the devil you don't, and sometimes, if you're very lucky, you get to be the devil yourself.